Google Analytics on our plates, and we're going to give you an overview of. I think I started talking too early again. Yeah, good day, everyone, and welcome to another webinar of DQ&A. Today with the topic of Google Analytics and how to achieve true customer centricity by comparing GA versus GA360, what the differences are, how it works for your business, and what's best suitable for you. I'm Fabian, I'm your host, and I've brought with me my colleague Giuseppe. Can you jump to the next slide, please? Yeah, I'm Fabian, and I'm joined by my colleague Giuseppe, and we're running you through the presentation today. A few general rules. We've got the first question already.
No.
Yes, we will share the presentation with you. We will also record this webinar and share it on YouTube within a week after today, so that everything we say today and what we do today will be conveyed to you also after the webinar, or if you're unable to join, or if you need to leave earlier. The chat has already been used, so please feel free and don't be shy. If you've got any questions, please shoot. We will do a general Q&A with all the questions that come up during the presentation, and we will try to answer all questions after the webinar. Having said that, I'm going to hand over to my dear colleague Giuseppe and wish everyone a lot of fun with the presentation.
Thanks so much, Fabian. And good afternoon, everyone. Let me show you points that we will cover today. So a few questions that we usually get from advertisers around GA and how to use GA. Where does Google Analytics stand in the Google ecosystem? I'll share then a little about best practices that we utilize when setting up a GA 360 account and how to use that to enable a customer-centric technology infrastructure. To close the webinar, I'll give you a little snippet on the Google Marketing Platform integration of Google Analytics and the beta feature on Google Analytics, which is the advanced analysis. So in terms of questions, we want to start today with how GA360 can be used in the case of unexpected events or natural events where you have to probably change your routine of monitoring and benchmarking and review performance. So we are highly suggesting at the moment to check technical and tag setup so that you can understand how the situation is going on your end, especially if you are in a retail business, and understand trends, opportunities, and perhaps identify what could be emerging audiences in these times, as well as improve interface setup. When we say that, we refer more to dashboarding and reports, so on changing KPIs and changing the way of showing a few numbers. I am going to share with you one specific example later on a change that we have implemented lately for one of our customers because of the working from home situation. But to go on with the Google Analytics 360 questions that we get are around these four macro areas. Let's say, how can I improve my audience segmentation? Why would I use Google Analytics 360? How can I act on audience extensions? So basically enriching my data with information that I have received from my visitors, but I store in other systems. And on-site personalization in terms of improving website functionality or A/B testing, as well as advanced analysis. So how do I use this tool to make data-driven decision? as well as run some more advanced frequency or recency analysis. And why can I do that with GA360 and why not on Google Analytics? So I'd like to start from the very beginning. So what is web analytics and what do we use it for? And it is the measurement, collection, analysis, and reporting of web data. And its main function is the process of analyzing the behavior of visitors to a website. I hope we all agree on this. And I move to the next slide, which is about what do we find in Google Analytics to answer questions that I have listed before. Well, we have a set of mainly four kind of reports. The audience set, which is answering question around who are visitors to my website, what do they look like in terms of demographics, as well as recency, frequency, how often do they come to the website, what are their interests also. In terms of acquisitions, instead, we are answering questions around how did the visitors get to my website, and or how did I get them to the website? Did I do a good job in on my marketing channels? And on the behavior side, instead, then we start answering questions about what did they do? What did the visitors do once they were on my website? So on which pages did they spend most time, as well as how did my website perform from a technical perspective, also, so more UX perspective, how fast did it load, as well as what were the interactions that the user or a user did on my website. The last set is then the conversions. Of course, very important. Think of it as the set of obviously soft and hard conversions, which translates into goals. So the so-called goals in Google Analytics. In there, we also have, if we're talking about an e-commerce website, we have also insights on product performance, sales, promotions, and checkout funnels. Now, when we move a little bit forward from GA to Google Analytics 360, we can already place the tool into the ad tech ecosystem together with others, because it is possible to integrate these tools together, apart from Studio Creative on the bottom left. But if you look at these slides, you basically have on the right side the, let's call it the analytics suite, and then on the left side the marketing platform. And GA sits in there, pushing information to the marketing platform and pulling information from the marketing platform in order to then become the central data hub of your marketing tech. Now, apart from being linked and the capability of linking your GA with the marketing platform, there's a few more attributes that I will show you and what makes the difference between the two versions. So first of all, we're talking about more accuracy and more customization and more data. As you can see on the left side, you have a very quick overview of what Analytics 3 version can do. It's 10 million hits. You can have a reporting sampling of up to 500,000 sessions, while in GA360, the reporting sampling goes around 100 million sessions. So when you look at a report, you have you can be sure that is not a default report that is not sampling your data. And on the other hand, in terms of customization, you have a limit of 20 on the basic version, and you can go up to 200 on the premium one. Now, to add a little bit more to this in terms of changes, in terms of features, I'll also pick that in terms of accuracy and freshness, with a 360 service level, you have data in a time of up to 4 hours, while with the basic version, you are in between 24 to 48 hours freshness of your data. One important point is that you can work directly with raw data without having to think about sampling via unsampled report that you can export from Google Analytics, or via the BigQuery integration. And when we talk about BigQuery, we are already jumping outside of the Google Ad ecosystem, and we're going into the Google Cloud platform. Of course, the integration with product like DV360, Campaign Manager, the Ad Manager for Publishers, SA360, and Cloud, because the BigQuery transfer and access to raw data of Google Analytics 360 is free. And then you have a few enterprise features. Of course, you have a dedicated support with a live chat. And most importantly, you have a data-driven attribution model that you can access with Google Analytics 360. I'll tell you a bit more about that later on in the webinar. So these are what are the main differences and key features to take into account when making this choice. And I'll guide you through the rest of the slides to explain what is the advantage of these features. So, of course, if you have more customization and you have more data, you can also get to a point where the granularity of your segments used in Google Analytics for your analysis, as well as the granularity of detail on which you can build your audiences for remarketing, is way higher than just the basic version. In terms of attribution, you can choose conversions that you can include in your model, in your data-driven attribution model. And on top of this, we're not talking about gold conversions only, so soft and hard conversions that you have recorded in your Google Analytics account, but also flood-like conversions from CM. Now, having said that, I want to show you the steps and the settings that we believe are important, and the process that we take when we are working with a new GA360 account. So first of all, we start from 3 macro areas, and we do this, we group it into 3 because we also believe that GA360 is not a tool that can answer questions for your marketing department, but also for your sales, for your HR department as well. So when we're talking about reporting, we look at this from a perspective of a set of questions that are asked on a regular basis. So monthly basis, weekly basis, or yearly basis. And it's always the same question. While when we talk about analysis, the focus is a little bit different, because it could be that you need to answer a question maybe only once to make a business decision. And you want to make sure that to answer these questions, first of all, you're getting the right data, and second, you're getting it in the right format. And to do that, you need to know how does GA speak, so to say, and how to translate your questions in GA terms. On the other hand, the third one is audiences, and that also depends on the data that you're collecting and the requirements that you receive in this case from your marketing department, I would guess, which is running your campaigns. So on the left side now you see the measurement pieces, reporting and analysis, and retargeting piece, which is the audiences. In order for these three macro areas to get the right answers, you ask questions around KPIs, product, marketing, user, website, and processes. And I hope that you see how this could be adopted by not only one department in your company. And in order to have enough input and enough information to answer these questions, you then have the single data hub, which is Google Analytics, which is made of two big cylinders. The one on the left is, let's say, native data, or the data that is already preset to be collected. Well, let's say that the model is already preset in GA to be collected in terms of audience reports, Google signals, behavior reports. But on the other end, you want to include also data that it's coming from an external data source, perhaps like your ERP system, CRM data, or other marketing platforms, or internal tools, meaning tools that you're using internally at your company. And you want to push this inside Google Analytics because perhaps that value that you need to build an audience is not there. Google Analytics just does not collect it. And you mostly have two options to do this by using custom dimensions. So of course, on a basic version, you can do this with 20 custom dimensions. But if you want to include more of these values, with a 360 service level, you go up to 200s. And the data import. And data import, in this case, we are referring to uploading a file to Google Analytics or sending data via a measurement protocol. Now, when it comes to the flow that we adopt to set up an account, we start from the preparation of data. What this means is that we look at the website or the app. We analyze the flow and funnels that are present on the website, and we prepare a document which we call measurement plan, together with inputs that we receive from clients or many departments of a client to basically understand what are the business questions, what are the business requirements. And together with this, we create an implementation guide, which is basically what is translating the business requirements into GTM tagging and GA360 values that we need to collect. Once this is done and approved, we move on with the actual implementation. So the tagging itself of GA, and together with how is the account structure supposed to communicate or be linked to other GMP products, so that we can use properly the data that we have in terms of reporting, as well as build audiences to push them out of Google Analytics to the right advertisers within our GMP products. And that's a very important point, because GA is in the middle, it's pushing out data, and it's also pulling in data. So the way you link together Google Analytics 360 with other GA products is really important. Once that's done, you basically can reach the level of having a future-proof skeleton. So this happens only once, and this way you're able to place GA basically in the middle of the ad Google ecosystem. Now, the last 2 points are basically once we go a step further and we look at GA data from in Google Cloud. So we are using this data for data activation, meaning that we run more advanced analysis, perhaps in BigQuery. We can build features on top of the data that we have collected and run models in Google Cloud to then collect new input, push it back to Google Analytics, and activate this data in our marketing activities. I will get back to this last thing I've mentioned in the next 2 slides. So here you see what do we take into account when setting up an account. On the right side, you see that we're referring to the data preparation on top of the slide. So when we do this, GA values that we can capture or collect are events. An event can be explained as capturing an interaction or non-interaction on a website. Give an example: if I am on a governmental agency website and I want to download a report, the web analyst may wanna know how many times did the report was the report downloaded. And so when I click on the download button, you can translate that into a GA event, which says, okay, there was a download. This was the name of the report that was downloaded, and you can assign one more value which says, this was in the document downloaded was in French. On top of this, you have custom dimensions. So, for instance, to this action, I could assign custom dimensions to translate these attributes that I've just mentioned. Custom dimensions also refer to, or let's say, are used to collect info around products. Perhaps Google Analytics doesn't know what is the size of shoes that I have just sold, or the brand, or the variant, the color. So that's how I can assign values that are not collected by default, but perhaps I have them in my ERP system or CMS system, as well as information that perhaps a visitor has selected, like being a premium subscriber, as well as details about the page or a group of pages on a website. If a page or a section of the website has a specific name that you want to use to group pages or products or articles, you can use a custom dimension and use that across all those pages, products, or articles. When it comes to enhanced e-commerce, here, of course, this is for the retail niche, and here, what's important to know about enhanced e-commerce is that it's as the name says, an enhanced version of the normal e-commerce implementation, because it allows you also to track checkout funnels and information around internal promotion on your website, if that happens. So assuming I have a product list, and on the left and right side of my products list, I am also showing internal promotions of my own product. I can use enhanced e-commerce to see how do this promotion influence the startup of a funnel, basically. In terms of goals, as I said before, we talk about soft and hard conversions, and this can be defined in multiple ways. One way can be the example I've given before of the download of a document. That action, that event can be used to create a goal in your Google Analytics and use it as use it as conversion. Data import, mention this. So we add external information. Content grouping is a way that you can use to group sections of your website. So you can say, okay, I just want to look at a content grouping which includes all the pages of my checkout funnel, and you group the pages of your checkout funnel into different steps. Or I want to look at the magazine section of my website. So what I can do, I can say, okay, let's group the whole magazine section of my websites. I will group it into, or break it down into 5 different sets of categories, and look at perhaps personal articles, company articles, or category X and category Z. So it's content grouping. It's a way of create groups and break down section of your websites that you need to see for reporting and analysis. Custom metrics is the same of a custom dimension, but it's not an attribute. It's rather a number that you want to use. Now on the right side, you see that there's a little orange box saying data layer, and that is basically one way to include information, or to send information to Google Analytics. So the data layer is an object. I'll try to explain it very, very easily for those who don't know. It's an object that walks hand by hand with your website and includes information about everything I've mentioned before. Users can include information about users, product, the website itself, and it helps us to model and push information to Google Analytics. In the middle between data layer and GA, there's Google Tag Manager. Now, once we have all this data collected in the right format, according to what we need to collect. So for some cases, for some questions, it's more suitable to create an event. For some others, instead, it's better to do that via a custom dimension. Once we have all this data in, we can start using Data Studio perhaps for reporting, BigQuery for analysis, and create audiences for our retargeting activities. And this is the part of data activation. Now, it doesn't really stop there, because we see Google Analytics as a bridge between the Google Marketing Platform and Google Cloud. What do I mean by this? As I said, there is data coming in GA and out of GA in exchange with the Google Marketing Platform tools. However, as I said, with GA360, you also have access to raw data that you're collecting via BigQuery. And on the right side, I'm giving you a few examples of what we have built. I'll pick one of this, which is the audience engine, and I'll try to give you an example on of how we leverage GA360 to build so-called advanced audiences. So assume that I have access to all my raw data in BigQuery, and I can select a few interactions or values that I want to take into consideration when building a machine learning model or an algorithm that will give me a new insight about perhaps what is the propensity to convert of a specific set of user or a set of products. I can then use this value and from the environment of Google Cloud, push it back to Google Analytics using measurement protocol, and then build on top of this value audiences, reporting, analysis, everything I've mentioned before that you can do with Google Analytics. And that's basically why we see Google Analytics in the middle between the two ecosystem. Before I go on, I want to give you a little example of what we are doing right now for a client of ours. In these times, everyone is working at home. They are using a VPN, but unfortunately, with everyone at home, this VPN is not really working properly, and you can set filters on your GA account to exclude internal traffic, and that's super important, especially for those of you running a lot of A/B testing and working perhaps with a full conversion rate optimization team. And that can screw up everything you're collecting and everything you are base your decision on. So in this case, unfortunately, the VPN was not assigning the right IP address, so we had to create a workaround via GTM and Google Analytics to make sure that traffic coming from employees, even if they were not in the same office, was not counted in a GA in GA data. Now I'll step a little bit on the side, focusing mostly on the integrations with other products, like Campaign Manager. What it's important to understand here, and that's something I've mentioned in our process flow, is to have a clear view on what is the way I want to connect the two products, because they have different hierarchies. However, I still want them to communicate to each other and leverage data that I have in Google Analytics with the right set of advertisers or campaigns that I am running in Campaign Manager. What happens with this integration? I can tell you a bit more about it by saying that in Google Analytics, apart from pushing audiences, you also will get a report section of data from Campaign Manager. The other integration that we picked is DV360. Pretty much same logic, and on the left side you can see what are the breakdown of the reports that you get in Google Analytics. So you'll have under the GMP section of reports, you'll get Campaign Manager and DV360. So you see data on advertiser level, campaign, site, placements, ads, creatives, and floodlight. Same story down for DV360. And what you can do is you can combine dimensions from, so the list that you see on the left from the GMP platforms with metrics that are actually from Google Analytics. Why is this also important? Because it helps with the data-driven attribution model. And I'm not going to dive too much into how that works, but it does take into account all converting and non-converting paths to calculate the performance of your channels, and it takes into account all touch points, including clicks, impressions, and direct activity to your website. Of course, GA does not track any impression, and the impressions that we refer to are the ones that are coming from the integration with DV360 and Campaign Manager. And so now I hope you see why the integration is important, also from an attribution point of view, and why GA is placed in the middle, because it gets a view of everything that happens before a click, thanks to the integration of Campaign Manager and DV. And then it has everything that happens after the click on the website because of its nature, basically. And then you can model this data in cloud. So one more point about the benefit of switching to GA360 is that sometimes in the basic version is a little bit tough to run a proper analysis, or even to answer easy questions, because it's not very flexible. And apart from the sampling, just default reports don't really answer everything we want to answer. Building a custom report, for those of you who are familiar with it, yes, it is doable, but still it's always a back and forth between tool and reports. And okay, let me pick the right dimension. Oh, I also need this other one, but I want to use a segment of this. So they come up with advanced analysis. And what does it do? It helps you exactly to do this kind of stuff, like an advanced version of a custom report, let's say. It has three main set of reports, and those are this ones: exploration, funnel analysis, and segment overlap. Now, the exploration, it can be exactly compared to a custom report in Google Analytics. For those of you who don't know what that is basically an interface where I can pick dimensions that I need for a report and metrics that I need for a report, set up perhaps a filter if I need it, and then save it, and I will have a table in front of me with a graph showing me the data that I've queried, basically ad hoc. In exploration, instead, you have the same, but you can use a drag and drop system, so you don't have to always get out of your report and select a new dimension or select a new filter, but you can rather do it while you see the data changing in your tables. Funnel analysis, instead, is a way to build funnels, so to pre-build funnels to analyze your data, and you can create up to 10 steps funnel. When it comes instead to number 3 is a segment overlap, where you can see how do different segments intersect, where do they intersect. And the interesting thing about the tool is that when you are working on the table, or when you're working on the graph showing you the intersection of the segments, you can right click on a point and say, okay, I want to create an audience out of this intersection, for example, or out of the number that is in the cell in my table. I'll give you a few snapshot here. So that's where the tool can be found. Bottom left, and you'll end up in a new window where you can then choose exploration, funnel, or segment overlap. As I said, the exploration is like a custom report, and you can have up to 15 dimension and 10 metrics. And as I said, you can interact with the table to build a segment or to build an audience. Funnel instead, here you see the steps that you can build, and you also see that you can pre-select segments that you want to use for your funnel. You can set up a filter in the bottom and change it while you're looking at the data, as well as, of course, the time frame. And of course, the funnels that you build take into account every user or every visitor that has begun the funnel from step number 1. That's how they look, more or less. This is a very easy example. But what I could do is I could come here and say, oh, let me right-click and create a segment out of these users. Now, the segment overlap, it is based only on one metric, but you can include other metrics in the report. So what it will look is like this. In this case, again, very easy example with mobile and tablet traffic, returning users and users who did a site search. And you see where they stand in between the intersection of mobile and desktop. And I'll now leave it to you guys. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer.
Thanks, Giuseppe, and thanks for the nice presentation. Yeah, so a lot of information to digest. Of course, yes, we are aware that GA is quite the mighty tool, I'd say. But what we're interested in is your use cases. What do you want to know? How do you want to use it? And what exactly can this tool give you to benefit your business? And we're starting off with a question from Patrick. Thanks for that. Will Firebase data also be shown in GA360? And are there any constraints to this? For example, limited events?
Yeah, that's a good question, because we see right now there's been the introduction of a new property which is called Web plus Up. And that's where web and app data is, say, aggregated. It's still in a phase of development. But yeah, in a short answer, yes. However, Firebase has its own limitations in terms of custom parameters and custom events. But yeah.
All right, thanks for the answer, Patrick. I hope that answers your question. If not, please follow up again with another question, or you're also always not only allowed, but we would appreciate if you send us another email. We are also happy to follow up after the webinar on that. A second question, pretty open, main advantages versus Adobe.
Oh, wow.
A challenge.
Nice question. Well, you see that the main advantage it's given by, and I will only pick this one and not all the others, that the tool is sitting in the middle of, as I said, another ecosystem which is from Google. And you can then leverage that data in cloud, and you have native integrations with this tool, which also means that the loss of data and at the very most granular level is way less than using or doing the same, but using tools from different vendors, let's put it this way.
All right, thanks for that answer. And another question by Olaf. If our part one day, can we export all our data to a competitor?
Sorry, I would say that I've never had this question before. And of course, I would say that is a little bit complicated. I would like to come back to this after the webinar, but of course, the way that the data is modeled for Google Analytics is not the same way that is modeled for other tools.
All right. I hope that answers the question, Olaf. Are there any other questions? I have not found any to be typed out yet. We're more than happy to answer them now, or as we said, answer them by email later. Well, while I'm giving you a bit of time to type down your questions, to write down your questions, I will also share a link to our YouTube channel. We will post all our webinars on our YouTube channel, and we already have quite a few on there. So if you've got any topics that might be of relevance to you, please check it out. Maybe you can find something that's helpful. And yeah, if not, please reach out. Giuseppe, one question. There is one coming in. Can I use BigQuery easily with Google Analytics too?
I'm not sure if I understand the question. Look at Google Analytics like a free version.
Yes.
No, the data transfer is available for this 360 version.
Okay, so BigQuery only, Analytics 360. All right. Another interesting question by Raval. What is the scope creating predictive intelligence in GA360?
The scope of predictive intelligence?
What is the scope creating predictive intelligence in GA360?
I am not sure what you refer to with predictive intelligence.
Raval, can you please elaborate real quick? We'll move on to another question. Is it possible to integrate web and app propriety to Google property, probably property to Google State Data Studio?
Oh, I think that's coming. Yeah. I can double check where is that possible, and I can follow up if you guys if you have the email, Fabian.
Yeah, Emanuele, we can of course reach out to you afterwards. We'll check that and we'll reach out to you. All right, another question. What was it? Data is with license ownership, right? So license moves, this moves along.
License moves, this moves along. What moves along?
The data or the data ownership. Can you please elaborate? Some questions need a bit more explanation, please. Otherwise, I have a question from my end because, sorry, let's see what's coming around. I've got a question from my end, just a point of discussion, because in the end, I think we're all aware. Also, we are aware that Google Analytics is a bit of an investment to take. Do you have any clear guidelines on when Google Analytics is useful and at which point it might be a little too much for the client? Are there any things you can pinpoint on that?
Well, I think that it comes with requirements of that you face. So of course, for a big organization with daughter companies and sister companies all over the place, they collect a lot of data. So from a heat perspective, it makes sense to move on GA360 because of the sampling that you face. And so when you look at a report and you see that your reports are based on 2% of your sessions, you don't trust the tool to make a decision. So you move with the 360 service level. On the other hand, when you want to work with when you want to use the data that you collect in GA for audience creation that you're not able to replicate within, for instance, Campaign Manager, it makes a lot of sense to switch to 360 because you can leverage that data 100%. When you want to access raw data, that's in my opinion, the game changer, because you work with raw data. You don't have to be stuck into the user interface. You can model it as you want and get the insights that you prefer. And if you want to act on it, you can also do it by pushing back new values to the tool. And then also others who don't have technical knowledge can use those values from the interface itself.
Okay, so that gives a quick rundown. Thank you for that. If we've got two follow-ups, one referring to the data export question. So that was referring to Olaf's question about export data to competitor. Data stays with license owner. That is the idea behind having a license on an entity and not on a DQ&A entity or competitor entity, right?
Oh, well, there is no license on DQ&A. Like the license of GA360 is your own. It's owned by the client. And generally speaking, an agency cannot create an account and manage underneath that account, that GA360 account, data from its client because of the legal structure of these entities. So properties within a GA account or GA360 license have to be from the same client. You cannot have different entities under one license, the legal entities. Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about a big corporation which has daughter companies, that's another story. But if I'm talking about me being an agency and owning properties for my clients, that's not possible.
Okay, so a small follow-up question from my end. Let's say you have a daughter company under a property and you sell that daughter company, and then that property slash website, whatever, will then be moving to another company or to another GA account. Is it possible to export that data and move it over, or do you have to start from scratch by implementing it?
No, you can. Well, there is ways to move properties from one account to the other. Now, if that's doable in that specific case, I think that I cannot answer because it changes case by case. But technically, you can move properties from one account to another.
Okay, perfect. I hope that answers the question then. And we've got one question, and we're not running out of time yet, but let's say let's take another few minutes. So if you've got more questions, please shoot. We've got another question from Raval. Is it possible to create predictive and analytics based on previous data events to benefit with better website conversions?
Yes. So, well, okay. I will answer this way. GA, it's not gonna tell you. I have looked at your data, and I think you have to put the button on the bottom left, or you have to write this on the button. But you can, or GA is not going to tell you, look, I see that because of the of my model that this set of user will convert sooner than this other group of users. You can do this, and you can answer these questions using GA data, and then you derive these insights. And for instance, well, there is one, let's say, prediction output from GA at the moment. If you are an e-commerce company and if you reach a certain threshold, which is and this is called conversion probability factor, and there's a report under the audience section that allows you to see the group of users who are are likely to convert within the next 30 days, and in how many days they're likely to convert. But of course, that's for you looking at that, it's kind of a black box, and it's already broken down into preset group of days in which they predict the conversion. If you want to do it your own and you want to control it, you can do it using raw data in BigQuery. And then you have a bunch of cloud components in Google Cloud that can help you do it well according to what are your requirements and also your resources. If that answered the question, let me know.
Raval, did that help you?
Oops.
Well, I think we are good. We had a lot of questions. Thanks for that. That's always good. So it seems like it's a topic that's that was interesting for everyone to listen to. We will follow up on a few things that that we're going to do. We're going to share the presentation to the people who asked. We'll also follow up with you, Emanuele. And otherwise, you'll find the video of the presentation on YouTube shortly. And we have, of course, especially during those confinement times, planned a few more webinars afterwards, of course, as well. And we'll let you know once the next one is announced. And it will be about something we have talked about very shortly. It'll be about attribution. And we'll send you an invite as soon as we have set up everything to get it going. Until then, I wish everyone a nice weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and hope to see you on another webinar of DQ&A.
Thank you so much.